What really happens to her when she didn't sleep for 24 hours? Lila had been awake for 24 hours when she locked the clinic door. The hallway behind her went dark in pieces. Motion sensors cut the lights with soft, delayed clicks, each section of ceiling going from harsh white to dim gray and then to nothing. The only thing that stayed lit was the red exit sign above the stairwell. It bled its color into the walls, making the paint look raw. She dropped the keys into her bag and massaged the bridge of her nose with 2 fingers. Her eyes felt hot and full, like there was grit under the lids. When she opened them again, the exit sign had a halo. The words smeared for a second into a red streak, then firmed back into 4 letters. Lila. She turned. Jamal, the charge nurse, stood at the far end of the hall with his jacket over one arm and a folder under the other. His tie was half undone. The light behind him made him a dark shape with tired eyes. He held up the folder. You forgot to sign the discharge. Lila let out a breath and walked back toward him. If I sign one more thing tonight, my hand's gonna fall off. He flipped the folder open and tapped the last page. Here. She scrawled her name in the space without really seeing the letters. You sure you're driving home? He asked. I'm not sleeping on that cot again, she said. My back still remembers Tuesday. Jamal watched her a second longer, then he slid the folder under his arm again. You almost wrote the wrong dose tonight. Her stomach dipped. I fixed it. I know, he said. His voice stayed calm, but he didn't look away. But your hand still wrote it. Lila's jaw tightened. He's stable. His sats are up. Mom's calmer. Because you caught it, Jamal said. He rubbed his forehead. You're empty, Lee. Take the on-call room, please. I'll cover it. And have you doing my work in 3 hours? She said, trying for a small smile. It came out thin. I'll be fine. It's 40 minutes. You've been up longer than that kid's been here, he said quietly. She stared at the knot of his tie instead of his eyes. I fixed it, she repeated, softer. Jamal's face softened. Yeah, he said. You did. He stepped aside so she could pass. Text me when you get home. You going to stay up just to worry? She asked. Already up, he said, glancing at the clock. Worrying's the only part they don't put on the timesheet. She managed a real, if brief, smile, then pushed through the glass door. For a moment she looked back. Through the reflection of her own face, she could still see the nurse's station. In the ghost light, one of the monitors seemed to show the pediatric bay. A little boy with an oxygen mask, his mother gripping the side rail, lips moving. In her memory, the boy's chart lay on the counter, numbers blurring. She had blinked too long over the dosage column and almost written the wrong one. Almost. Her fingers had paused over the pen, and a cold feeling had run up her arm. She'd fixed it. Double-checked, called the doctor, no harm done. But the column of numbers had stayed fuzzy long after. Her feet carried her down the stairs before her head fully caught up. The stairwell smelled like bleach and old coffee. Her hand slid along the cold rail, knuckles nearly white in the emergency light spill. At the bottom, she pushed through the heavy door and stepped into the parking lot. The clinic sat near the edge of town where streetlights were stingy and buildings squatted low. A single lamp cast a circle of orange over the lot. Beyond it, everything was either shadow or the pale ghost of frost on metal. Her car waited under the lamp, dusted in a thin layer of icy powder. The windshield looked like someone had breathed on it and forgotten to wipe it clear. She walked over, her breath a faint cloud in the cold air, and unlocked the door. The dome light popped on with a weak glow. The interior smelled faintly of fast food and fabric cleaner. Lila slumped into the driver's seat and sat there, unmoving for almost a full minute. Hands on the wheel, head tipped back, eyes closed. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She fished it out and thumbed it on. Jamal, you better text. I'm serious. She typed back with clumsy thumbs. Leaving now. If I don't text, come haunt me. 3 dots appeared. Jamal, not funny. Drive safe. She didn't answer that one. She set the phone screen down in the cup holder. The digital clock on the dash said 2:56 a minute. Home was 40 minutes away on a good night. No traffic, straight shot down the highway. Coffee table, blanket. Darkness that wasn't full of ringing phones and crying parents and monitors that beeped when oxygen dipped. She turned the key. The engine grumbled awake. The vibrations ran up her arms from the worn steering wheel into her fingers. She put the car in reverse and backed out of the space. The first part of the drive was almost automatic. Left at the light, onto the main road, past the shuttered gas station with its dark price board, past the row of closed storefronts with "For Lease" signs in their windows, their glass fronts reflecting her headlights like blank faces. Her body did what it always did: check the mirrors, glance at the speed, ease to a stop at the one intersection that still bothered to cycle through its lights this late. At the red light, her phone buzzed again, a different tone. She glanced down. Keisha flashed on the screen. She hesitated, then jabbed the speaker button. "Hey, you sound terrible," Keisha said. Her sister's voice came thin and sharp through the car speakers. "You still at work?" "I'm on the highway," Lila said. "Just hit the ramp." "At 3 in the morning?" Keisha sighed. "They're going to break you in half with these shifts." "Not if I beat them to it," Lila said, trying to joke. It landed flat even to her own ears. "How long you been up?" Keisha asked. "Long," Lila said. "I lost count at sometime yesterday." "That's not funny," Keisha said. "I'm fine," Lila said. The light turned green. She rolled forward. "No traffic. I can see my lane lines. I got this." "You sound drunk," Keisha said. "You hear yourself?" "Just tired," Lila said. "Cheaper." There was a pause. She could hear Keisha breathing on the other end, the faint rustle of blankets. "You almost did something tonight, didn't you?" Lila's grip tightened on the wheel. "Who told you that?" "You," Keisha said. "You always call me when you're too wired to sleep. You didn't call, so I know something happened." "I fixed it," Lila said. The words came out a little too fast. "That's not the same as it not being there," Keisha said softly. The highway ramp rose ahead of her, a smooth gray curve. The guardrail glinted in her headlights. "Can we not do this right now?" Lila said. "I'm merging." Keisha sighed again, softer. "Fine. Call me when you get home." "Text you," Lila said. "I'll probably faceplant as soon as I hit the couch." "If you don't text in an hour, I'm calling Jamal," Keisha said. "Snitch," Lila muttered. "What was that?" "Love you," Lila said. "Mm-hmm," Keisha said. "Love you too." "Hang up and drive." The call clicked off. The sudden cut of her sister's voice left a hole in the car. The quiet rushed back in too fast. The hum of the tires surged to fill it, loud and steady, like something big and patient moving under her. The highway opened in front of her. 2 wide lanes, then 3, then 2 again as the town thinned out. Above, the sky was a low metal lid without stars. Lila settled the car into the right lane and let the speed climb to 60. The hum of the tires became a single long note. For a little while there was nothing but that sound and the steady flick of white dashes under the nose of the car. The rhythm almost hypnotized her. Dash, 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 blank, and then another. Her eyelids felt heavy. She rolled the window down 2 inches. Cold air slipped in and knifed across her face, stinging her cheeks awake. On her left, a semi drifted by, its trailer a dark wall. The lights along its side flashed red in a pattern. For a moment, in the corner of her eye, those lights looked like people walking alongside the truck, heads bent, shoulders hunched, pacing it step for step. One of them was small, chest rising under an invisible mask, a thin arm curled around a stuffed animal. She heard the echo of a mother's voice in her head. "Is that the right amount? You're sure?" "Yes," she had said back at the clinic, hand hovering over the dosage box. "I triple-checked." On the highway, her hand tightened on the wheel. When she turned her head fully to look at the truck, there was only metal and paint. She exhaled, a short, humorless puff of air. "You're seeing things," she told herself. Hearing herself out loud made her sound even more tired. The truck pulled ahead and changed lanes. Its taillights became two small red punctuation marks in the distance. The road stretched on. The heater hissed. The dashboard cast a low glow up onto her hands. A green sign loomed ahead on the right. She saw it in plenty of time. Her eyes focused on it, but the words wouldn't stick. Exit 23, maybe? Or 25? The numbers slid past and washed right out of her mind as if they'd been written on water. "Exit something," she muttered. "Not mine." It took her a beat too long to realize she didn't remember the last song that had played on the radio. She hadn't turned the radio on. Her phone buzzed faintly in the cup holder with a notification. The tiny screen lit up, throwing a box of white on the dark plastic. It tugged at her attention even when she ignored it. The lane markings began to shimmer. The white dashes no longer sat flat on the road. They seemed to rise an inch, then two, floating just above the surface. They wobbled, stretching tall and thin before snapping short again, like figures trying to stand upright and being forced back down. She blinked hard. "Stay flat," she whispered. The lines settled. Then slowly, they started to move again. The trees beyond the guardrail were just darkness and texture. Her tired mind kept trying to give them arms. Branches became elbows. Clumps of leaves became heads bent toward each other, consulting in whispers she couldn't hear over the engine. Her vision narrowed. The edges of the windshield dimmed. The clear circle in the middle, road, lines, a tunnel of hazy light from her own headlights, that was all that felt real. The clock on the dash read 3:11. She told herself she would check it again in a minute, just to be sure she hadn't drifted. She felt it happen before she saw the time change. It was like hitting a cut in a film. One moment she was watching the next set of white dashes rise to meet her, each one snapping under the bumper with a soft, imagined click. The hum of the tires was even, the engine note steady. Then there was a skip. No fade, no blur, just a tiny lurch in reality, as if someone had taken out a few frames and jammed the reel back together. Her stomach dipped. Her hands tightened on the wheel. The hum did not change. The road did not change. Her body kept doing exactly what it had been doing. Her awareness arrived late to meet it. The next time she glanced at the dash, it said 3:18. "Wait," she said, voice small in the car. "No, no, no, no." There was no memory of a sign, or a curve, or a passing car. The sequence of white dashes in her mind just broke and restarted, with nothing in between but a sense of pressure behind her eyes, like the ache after crying. A faint nausea rose in her throat. The missing minutes felt like a physical thing, a slice taken out of her life and set somewhere she couldn't reach. Her phone buzzed again. A text banner slid across the dark screen. "Jamal, you home yet?" She didn't answer. Her thumbs felt too far away. Up ahead, another green sign appeared. She stared at it as if that alone could keep it from slipping past her again. Rest area, 10 miles. The letters danced slightly, its blue background breathing in and out. For a second, it looked as if the sign itself were stepping off its poles, legs unfolding from under the metal. Her grip on the wheel tightened until her fingers hurt. 10 miles, she said. You can do 10. The sign snapped back into place and flew past. Her phone buzzed again. This time she glanced down just for a heartbeat. Another message from Jamal. Lila? When she looked up, the car had drifted toward the shoulder. The sound of the rumble strip tore through the quiet. The whole vehicle shuddered as the tires rolled over the ribbed concrete. The vibration traveled up through the chassis into her bones, shaking her awake. Shit! Her shout sounded slow to her own ears. She jerked the wheel, too hard. The car veered left, nose sliding toward the center line. The steering felt sluggish and twitchy at the same time, like a limb that had fallen asleep. Headlights swelled in the oncoming lane far ahead. They looked too big, too bright, like eyes popping wide open. She dragged the wheel back to center. The car obeyed reluctantly, like it needed a moment to remember how to respond. Her heart pounded so fast she could feel it in her gums. Her mouth tasted metallic, the same sour tang she got when adrenaline hit between patients and the hallway suddenly smelled like disinfectant and fear. In the mirror, something moved. For an instant, the interior of the car behind her wasn't empty. There was a shape on the back seat, upright, shoulders rounded, head turned slightly toward her. Pale fabric, a bare arm. A thin tube glinted against the skin, looping up toward where a nasal cannula should be. A small voice seemed to rasp in the back of her mind. Hurts? Her own voice from earlier answering. Just a little pinch. The overhead light from the last highway sign painted the back seat in a sickly glow. Alcohol wipe sharpness sat under the warm plastic smell of the vents. Under the engine's hum, there was the phantom rise of a steady electronic tone. She blinked, eyes burning. The back seat was just cloth, the faint imprint of old grocery bags, a crumpled fast food receipt, the shadow of the rear headrest. Okay, she whispered, throat tight. Okay. You're done. You're done for tonight. The car smelled like stale fries and cheap air freshener, but the metallic taste lingered on her tongue, refusing to belong to either place. The next mile marker said 30. She didn't know when 29 had happened. The rest area sign came again sooner than she expected. Rest area, 2 miles. This time the words were steady. It was her vision that moved. The blue background seemed to tilt, the bottom edge rising, the top sinking, as if the whole sign were a door opening slowly on a hinge. Her eyes stung. Tears, not from emotion, just from the rawness of staying open too long, blurred everything for a moment. The sign smeared into a block of color and then split into 2 overlapping copies. She blinked hard. They merged. She rolled the window all the way down. Cold air knifed in, clawing at her face and arms. It made her shiver, which helped. For a few seconds, she felt clear. 1 mile, she told herself. Just 1. Then you stop. The road was what it always was. Dirty snow at the edges, gravel in the median, a long black strip with white bones laid down its spine. The exit ramp rose on the right. She almost drove past. Her hands, slow to relay the decision, finally twisted the wheel. The car arced across the broken white line and onto the curve. The guardrail hugged her on the outside. The slope down to the trees leaned away on the inside, a black hollow full of nothing. Halfway up the ramp, her eyelids fell. It was not a choice. It was not a gentle closing. It was as if someone had flicked a switch in the back of her skull, and the world went from on to off with no transition at all. The car kept moving. The engine kept its note. Her foot stayed on the pedal. There was no dream in the gap, no thought, only a feeling afterward that something had been cut and spliced again, another invisible join in the film of her life. When her eyes snapped open, the car was already in the rest area. She was crawling along the row of parking spaces, 10 miles an hour, headlights painting empty asphalt and faded lines. She didn't remember the top of the ramp. She didn't remember seeing the building, or the vending machines, or the big blue signs with arrows telling her where cars should go and trucks should park. She had done it. Her body had turned, steered, slowed. She had simply not been there. She eased into the first open spot she saw and shifted into park. The engine idled, a low shiver under everything. The air from the vents cooled as the car sat still. The dashboard glow carved soft lines into her skin, making the tendons on the backs of her hands stand out. Outside the windshield, the rest area was half-lit and almost empty. 2 vending machines huddled in the corner by the bathrooms, their fronts glowing green and red. Their compressors hummed in thin, rising tones that hovered just below the pitch where alarms began, each soft mechanical click slotting into the quiet like a held-down monitor beep that never quite let go. Farther back, a single semi sat with its cab dark. The little orange clearance lights along its trailer blinked on and off in a lazy rhythm. For a moment, her tired mind turned those lights into a circle of figures walking around the truck. Not distinct, not detailed, just the sense of motion, a suggestion of people tracing the same path over and over, heads bowed, never looking up. In the faint clank and whir of the vending machines, she almost heard words break apart. Dose. Sure. Please. Her phone buzzed in the cup holder. Jamal. She stared at the message, then typed slow. Pulled over. Rest area. 3 dots appeared. Jamal. Good. Sleep. I mean it. She let the phone drop back into the cup holder. The screen went dark. Her hands were still on the wheel. Her fingers ached. She peeled them off one at a time. The silence inside the car felt different from the silence on the highway. Out there, the quiet had been thin, stretched, tight over speed. In here, it was heavier. It had weight. She closed her eyes. This time, the darkness behind them was voluntary. She could feel the difference. There was a surrender in it, not the rude absence she'd experienced on the ramp. Her muscles softened in small, careful increments, as if they were afraid that letting go too fast would send her spinning again. Under the relief, the cuts in her night remained. They lined up in her mind like the boxes on a chart, little white rectangles waiting for entries that would never come. 20 minutes here, 7 minutes there. A ramp taken by a body that hadn't bothered to invite her. The dosage row from earlier drifted beside them, the one she had stared at until the numbers blurred, the ink sitting on top of the paper instead of sinking in. Behind her eyelids, the highway unrolled. The white dashes were no longer flat. They stood faintly above the surface now, thin figures in gowns at the ends of beds lined up down the lane. Oxygen masks glowed where headlights should have been. The blinking lights on the distant trailer clicked in time with an invisible monitor, each pulse a small, square beep that left a blank space after it, waiting to be filled. The engine hummed. The clock on the dash clicked over to 3:42 a.m. Lila let the seat recline a few inches. The car rocked a little in response, then stilled. She didn't count the minutes anymore. She didn't try to knit the missing pieces back into a single thread. Those boxes would stay blank, on paper and in her head. She let the dark fold over her, and somewhere between one blink and the next, another small piece of the night slipped away without her.
Thank you for listening to The Storyteller's Moon. If this story touched you, scared you, or kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps the stories alive, and I can't wait to share the next one with you under the moonlight. Until then, may your nights be safe and your dreams unforgettable.